introduction, all caps, I believe I had a reasonably good idea about what I could do that would be fun and productive for me and you both. So I got the idea of just telling stories about things that have happened to me. If it's made up, I'll tell you it's made up. It's that simple. Modulo. I was whatever age I was at the time. Modulo. I am a mere person. It's not impossible to misremember things. Period. Um, so I thought I could tell some stories, and I want to. So among the things that I want to be clear about is that I do not want to call anybody out. This is not about that, and not in a foo-foo kind of way, but a very practical way. Very practical. In fact, there's an immediate feedback loop. If I put that out there, it can become less hypothetical over time that it comes back because people can be found. I don't want to just besmirch. I want to speak in generalities wherever I can, although I may use a family moniker when it's important. Brother, mother, father. Brother, father, supplicant. So I will yammer a bit about production notes, only because it's a good warm-up exercise and maybe a little bit of sympathy. I am recording this audio track using Audacity, and I edit it using Audacity, and then I merge it with a video-only clip. What I envision is something more along the lines of, first of all, the original plan was to sort of slightly obfuscate the video with something like the scanner darkly effect. Optional, obviously. The secondary goal was to include the crunching of gravel and the birds and all that stuff, which I have not mastered as a technician just yet. There's a lot of wind noise, so I just throw it away for now. And then this spoken voice, slam poetry, scatting. And I thought, if I try a little harder to make something production quality in the first place, first of all, I will remember myself doing what I used to do and laugh because it's just dumb. And two, mostly automate editing because my practice is to have long silences where I reconnect and check in. I have had some very unfortunate back issues lately, and I think it's okay. Insert Ralph Wiggum meme. Does that mean you're crazy? Psychosomatic, giving myself a lifetime of stress several times over, end to end. I emphasize that I give it to myself. I can make choices and change things. I didn't really think that through very carefully. So, so automation is key here because it's kind of the bottleneck. It is extremely demotivating to have to hand edit stuff, and I understand that I need a better mic. That's fine. I'll do that. That's my name. Getting sidetracked in a good way. Anyway, popping off and discarding some stack. I have, I don't know. I don't want to be, I do not want to get woo woo ever at all because woo woo derails instantly. I'm just talking common sense, trying to do better, thinking, and I've had some oh my goodness moments in the last few days reflecting upon the type and quality of upbringing that I have had, that I experienced. And another point that I feel deeply annoyed to have to emphasize, I realize that people have worse problems than me. That is not the point. The point is to reflect, period. And try to do so in a clear and level-headed way that's helpful to you, etc. And I find myself, gosh, it is very easy to understate this. I find myself wanting some kind of validation, not a 360 slam dunk where you shatter the backboard, but some kind of, yeah, that happened. Man, that sucks. Something along those lines, something human, or perhaps if there's some concern about my veracity, then you can ask me about that. But my life, with some very few amazing exceptions, are full of people like that. To degrees, I am like that, capable of. I really like the psychologist's analogy of a wounded animal, somebody who is suffering emotionally in ways that they can't really get across to you and are maybe surprised by your lack of concern. It's very derailing. Like, for example, under circumstances where you would expect compassion and concern, instead there's anger. And that describes a few in my life. And that's cool. It could be a shortcoming in my communication abilities, obviously. We're all figuring it out. So I hope to be able to pump these out just by talking into my good enough mic and perhaps experimenting with others. But I'm going to be putting out a series of these kinds of things. And I think that is really honestly kind of the scope of this whole thing. And perhaps the appropriate thing to do is to taxonomize them appropriately, which might mean not at all, but coherency is nice. Um, so I am, so I record an introduction in all caps as a convenient link to explain myself. I'm contrite about lots of things. What do you want? I probably already am, but sometimes behavior is so baffling that you have to reflect it off of somebody. And if there's no such person to do that with, then you're going to have problems because it starts to feel, kind of uncanny. There's a lot of psychobabble, self-helpy psychology pop sci out there with regard to this space, and that's good. But I, for one, will use labels very, very sparingly. If you can't tell what I'm talking about, then maybe it's not a thing in the first place. You get to play the guessing game. If I'm making a puzzle, then I have to have some sort of assurance that you're doing the work to put it together. If you can't be bothered to listen or read this, then that's fine. No problem. Off you go. But this, again, okay, interruption, popping one off the stack, important. I'm going far, far out of my way to be pseudonymous. I would hate to make unusual friends in the process. Somewhat unusual, yes. In other words, out of respect and in recognition of the pressure of bad mouthing people, putting it out there and getting doxxed, I don't intend to do anything but speak truth and do it in a compassionate, understanding way if I can manage it. So I've gone to lengths to make that the case, but if I play the hide me game, I will never get past the paranoia barrier. Got to get past that, period. So, because I recognize that there's pressure coming back in that direction, if I make something pseudonymous and fact based, I guess the only sin that I've committed is speaking about facts regarding another person who I did not identify directly, period. I will be respectful. That's what I'll be. I'll be respectful, but I want to explore. Spelunk. This is a nice kind of meditation for me. It wiggles a toe for me. It's somewhat soothing. I'd like to be able to do more and get two grips, get a grip, and not play judge, but play my own defense for sure in an anonymous way. And I welcome any criticism of that sort, especially. That was unfair is a fair objection. Q&A? Sure, Q&A. So I guess I'll take it slow, which means quality of this sort or the other may not be exceptional at all times, but I'll do my best. One important thing that I'm realizing as I do this record this is that it's very freeing to know that you've not contaminated this. I've not shared this with anybody. I don't intend to share this with anybody I know. That would defeat the purpose. All caps. Really looking forward to effortless, natural sounding silence detection and removal. Then all I have to do is not make a bunch of sounds pointlessly like I am right now. No big deal, by the way. I'm doing great. This can sound dark and depressing, but I think the reason for that is it's not a lid that's lifted and inspected under frequently enough. It's all good. I'm all about peace for sure. Gosh, unrealistic replacements for the people that have actually been in my life that I imaginate into existence. Those people are great. It'd feel real nice to have someone see things differently and inquiringly, but that don't happen. That ain't gonna happen. I can, well, one thing that I jotted down quickly as I was thinking of topics is how the communication goes between me and certain other people. I think that is I call it a thundering silence that, given the evidence, haha, remember, defendant for myself, given the evidence, I think it's fair to present it in before Pink Floyd reference, The Wall. The Wall. I have a cute story about The Wall and being old enough to really like it. I, I think it was just uh, the same gobbledygook as all the other fancy FM stations had on at the time in certain minds at the time, which, I mean, that's understandable. You're unfamiliar and don't want to have to hear it. Okay, that's a preference. But, I mean, I'll give myself credit. When I was 8 years old, I had locked on to the FM fancy schmancy broadcasts of The Wall. I don't know how long. I think it was, shoot. Okay, so let's see. This is important. 1978, I was 6 years old. Oh, let's look up the release. Hang on. We want the, hang on. Okay, here we go. The album. So I'm not so concerned about when the movie came out. I'm concerned about when the album hit the airwaves, as Casey would have said. Released November 1979. So I was 7, and I was going to turn 8 in a few months. And I absolutely recognized this is amazing versus a lot of the other stuff that I heard that I definitely grooved to, but it was more a Donna Summer groove than any other kind of groove. This and that, I was eclectic. I was, for that matter, whatever was coming was what you was getting. uh, so I heard it then, and I didn't own. So my brother may have owned the cassette set. I would guess that he did. I didn't own a copy of The Wall until I was, I don't know, 20 probably. That would have been. See, it's deeply ironic. If you're a fan, I could insert a Bill Hubbard meme because I found myself lapsing into old man tells the story voice. It would have been, it would have been back in 1992. That's when I was 20. So I don't know. I'm trying to assign blame here. I was disallowed. Well, I like a lot of things. It was probably implicit, and my universe was carefully shaped so that I didn't run into it too often. And if it ever came up, oh man, holy moly! I have to do a thing about the Eddie Murphy Delirious cassette tape that my little psychopath friend had brought along, and he popped that in mid cassette tape while me and him sat in the car and cackled at stuff that was just, well, look, look it up. It's available on BitTorrent probably. Um, it's rather blue, shall we say. I mean, so my mom was so this is becoming a story, and it's not supposed to. Backspace, backspace. There were other sorts of music that I liked. Thank you very much. I was eclectic. But I do remember deeply grooving to The Wall when it came out on the radio. I don't know. I don't have memories of it being changed away or anything. I do remember tisk the idea that we don't need no education because we are a rah rah. We do need education, family, strictly orthodox. Um, I was like, wow, this stuff's great. When I was 7 and some months old, this many, holds up, amputated finger. Right. So I was deep in the middle of an introduction. That's cool. Let me think here. Oh yeah, I just want to be honest. This is, if you accept as a premise, this is from my point of view anonymous, and you're a kind soul that respects that. We're cool. All that to say, I very much worry about that because I don't want to put anything negative out there. What I'll do is I will be as fair as I possibly can, like I am testifying. Testimony. Remember? We used to have those. That's it, I guess. Here is praying, figuratively, that this comes out okay and usable.